And we welcome you to another edition of Believe in Giants, presented by FanDuel. Bob Papa, two-time Super Bowl champion Carl Banks. And Carl, we got a special guest because we're going to see him on Sunday in New Orleans. Charles Davis will be doing the telecast for CBS, and he joins us here on Believe in Giants. Carl, you fired up for this?
Wait, I love talking to Charles. Are you kidding me? He's such a wealth of information.
Charles and I have a routine. Whenever he's doing a game, we usually have a conversation early in the week, going through the depth chart for a little intel. Charles, that's always a lot of fun, my man.
Oh, listen, Bob, you have no idea. Well, maybe you do, but I'm just going to say it here so everyone understands how appreciative I am that you take the time to do that. Because what I've learned in my little bit of career, the people who are closest to the team, meaning call the games, prepare for them, that are doing the same things I'm doing, except they're there every day understanding the team. Those are the people you need to call and find out. And I think you can attest, Bob, I'm not calling for, insider trading information, all right? Martha Stewart and I are not going to be in the same spot all day.
Whoa.
Although where she ended up sure looked like it was fun to me, okay? So if I have to go, please send me where Martha went. That's cool with me. But all I'm saying is, I'm not calling to try and get proprietary information about teams. I just need to know who's going to play on Sunday. Because if I know that, then it's up to me to study who's going to be on the charts and be ready to go. So it's always fun to do that, and I really appreciate you taking that time.
All right, so, Carl, I want to give you a little background here. Now, Charles, when NBC had Arena Football, did we do a couple games together?
Yes, we did.
Okay, but, Carl, this is the scene of – so NBC was doing the Bayou Classic, Grambling Southern.
Yep.
And Charles and I, Charles, where we do that for about 5 years?
Yeah, about
5 years?
About that time frame, yes.
So this is going to be like a little homecoming for us because me and you and Don McPherson and the Grambling and Southern SIDs, you can never forget it.
Lewis Johnson with us.
Yeah, Lewis Johnson. Wow. And they would give you the depth charts, Carl. And they had one person, right? They didn't have money
they didn't have a department. There's a one-person band.
They'd have like 4 guys that wore number 8, and all of a sudden, like there was a guy that hadn't played all year, and he's got like 190 yards receiving. You're trying to figure out which number 8 that is, and they would just shrug and look at you like, I don't know, I'm not sure. Where'd he come from? Well, he's been around.
Carl, one of our favorites, we had one of the teams, and they had a transfer player back from Oregon. Bob, you'll remember this one. Bob and I both looked at it and said, I know this kid. I've seen him play. He played at Oregon, and he transferred back to one of the schools. And I said, I believe his name is, and then there was a letter missing on the roster. And I said, no, it's not it doesn't end with an N. It ends with an S. But they kept calling him, John without an S instead of Johns. Okay, I'm just using a name. I don't want to say who the kid was. Yeah. I'm saying Bob, and Bob's like, that's not. And so we finally found the kid. Somehow we ferreted out the kid. And I said, okay, we know you as this. And he said, I've been trying to tell them all year. That's my name, but they won't call me. That's what my favorite. And all the time. The coaches called him the SID called him yes. He said, I've been here and no one has called me by the proper name. They just call it, stop it. And I thought it was one of the best things ever. He was so excited to meet us that we actually knew his name.
That's pretty cool.
You better not fall asleep on this team.
It's any given Sunday. But before I even get there, the broader NFL picture, Charles, is, and I think we go through this every year, scoring is down. They're like, scoring is down so far in the NFL. And then I look at teams that just do what it takes to win, right? So is that an indication of anything that we at the first month of the season that the scoring isn't what people thought it would be?
I don't know, Carl, and I've been kicking this one around a little bit too, because ever since we entered the era of guys really not playing at all in preseason, you know, we've gotten into where the first month of the season is extended preseason. And can you come out of it 2-2? Can you come out of it healthy? And then you start to play, right? I felt like going into this offseason, into this preseason, though, we heard more coaches talk about playing people, right? Cincinnati was tired of their lackluster starts. They're going to play guys more in the preseason. Giants played people more in the preseason. Tennessee was playing people because they were so abysmal last year. They were going to play them in the preseason. I could go on and on and on. More and more people have felt like played. I don't know if there's a direct correlation, to be frank with you. But I think that the first month of the season, outside of the kicking game, I think the kicking game is where we've seen the biggest dramatic changes. I think the play's been pretty good, and I'm not worried about the scoring aspect of it because I do believe the defenses are playing better earlier. They've caught up to the speed quicker. They're not missing as many tackles in the open field in general. Now, the kicking game, that's a whole nother story because we're seeing block kicks every week that are changing games.
Then we have this Giant team where you look at this defense from where they started week 1 to where they are now. I'm seeing a trend, but it's still, they're playing better. I think their pass rush allows them to do a lot of different things and also allows them to be as basic as they need to be on the back end. But then when people look at it and they're like, well, they're 29th. I'm like, well, they were 32nd 2 weeks ago. They're progressing.
Yeah.
And then I look at a team that their defensive backs have had every game with the exception of Washington have had legitimate interception opportunities, I think 2 or 3 per game. Last week they came up with 2. So I'm like, okay, they're taking bad angles for big runs, not getting guys on the ground. But if you subtract, and you have to, and people don't understand, in a team meeting, they subtract those bad things and say, if we do these better, this is the type of team we are. And then I'm looking at, 2 big chunk runs where it's user error. And I'm like, this team could be a lot better than what people are really giving them credit for defensively, just from a talent standpoint and what they, how they approach that front four.
Carl, I think what you're talking about is what we heard all off season, and I'm pretty sure you guys heard it too. When people started talking about teams that they thought could surprise, could be better, could make a leap, when you talked about the Giants, you started with the defensive side of the ball. All right. Obviously drafting Abdul Carter to go with Thibodeau and to go with Burns as edge rushers. Dexter Lawrence in the season that he had last year with 9 sacks, and he's so active inside and creates so many plays for you. When you looked at it that way, this is what we were talking about. And I think you make a great point. If they get to the point where they're not making the same errors they've made in the first 4, this is the defense we're talking about. This is what we were saying in the offseason. And you see the flashes of it. Now can you pull it all together and do it full time? And I think last weekend against the Chargers was a great indicator of where it's going because everything you said was in that tape of last week. A lot of the big plays, interceptions, doing all the right things, the pressure on the quarterback. And then, as you said, bad angles to the football, and all of a sudden, 54 yards later, there's a touchdown. So this is everything everything you put out there is on tape. But if they eliminate the bad stuff, I think Shane Bowen has something on the defensive side of the ball, no question.
And Carl, the Giants they're 13th in first down defense, which is obviously inside of the top half. But as we've talked about it, Carl, they've been kind of poor on second down defense. That's been an area that they've struggled in. I mean, and obviously they had a good game on third downs last week. But one of the reasons why their third down defense hasn't been great is because they'll get you in 2nd and 12, and the other team gets 10.
Yeah.
And suddenly it's 3rd and short, which is hard to stop. So that's something that they definitely have to clean up this week against a team that's challenged offensively. Charles, you've worked some of these Saints games. They got some talent there. they got to get better play out of their quarterback.
Agreed. And this is, me and my crew, this is our third straight Saints game, guys. So we feel like we have a pretty decent idea about what we've watched and what we've seen. So to illuminate what Bob just said, they have talent. Alvin Kamara at running back, Juwan Johnson at tight end, receivers named Brandon Cooks, Chris Olave, Rashid Shaheed. Okay, that's not their issue. Their offensive line started the 5 they projected to start this year. The first time was game 4. They've had injuries. They've not been able to get guys in the right places. And so they finally start the guys they'd wanted to start all off season. And Carl, you know what happens when you do that, right? Second quarter, starting right guard goes down with an ankle. So you're right back to shuffling again. And the quarterback, Spencer Rattler, won the job in the offseason, did everything he needed to do to beat out Tyler Shuck. I think that they're going to stick with him for a while. It doesn't feel like that there's a quick hook out there for him. He's making good plays, but he's missing the opportunities to make great plays. Chris Olave's open in the end zone. This is going to put them ahead in Buffalo in the fourth quarter, and the ball's inaccurately thrown. He has to try and make a circus catch. He can't make it. And Alvin Kamara's open on a swing. He puts it on the wrong shoulder. He has to stop instead of just catching it and running. It's things of that nature. But the kid's a battler. The kid's a worker. The team likes him. He's taking care of the football. Only 1 interception, no fumbles so far. But they have to find those plays that give them something. Chris Olave's getting 1 million targets and no yardage. That doesn't make any sense. You've got to find ways to get some of those hits downfield. Rashid Shaheed, I'd block it up once a game and throw it as far as I can and say, let's see what we get. They haven't really been able to do that. Those are the things that they need from them right now.
So basically, Charles, this is, the NFL is a league where there's very little margin for error, and the difference between the good teams and the bad teams obviously is talent. But when you're punching in your weight class, you have to look at a team and say, they could hurt us if we are not doing what we're supposed to do. So to your point, Charles, when teams are punching in their weight class, they're not looking for things that only for things that teams don't do well, right? So just like you pointed out, well, Chris Olave is getting the ball a ton of times, right? Or Rashid Shaheed can get a deep ball. They're saying we've got to protect against the deep ball. We got to make sure that Olave does not get open. And oh, by the way, Alvin Kamara is a great player on any team, a winning or losing team. So he can wreck the game by himself. So these are all concerns when you walk into a game and you say, oh, and by the way, they're playing in New Orleans, a very hostile environment with a rookie quarterback. So records don't necessarily, especially when you're in your weight class, you're punching your weight class, you've got to be even better than you were against a team like the Chargers or the Kansas City Chiefs, because all things being equal, you may not get the opportunities that you had against those other guys.
Yeah, that's such a great point. And this is one where definitely the weigh-in works perfectly for both of them. We're not having anyone miss this fight. Okay, everyone's in it. The interesting part to me, and I'll stay with New Orleans for this one, is everything you pointed out, Carl. People are playing so that these things don't happen against them. So if that's true, you have to do other things to make things work for you. Here's where New Orleans has fallen short, because I went back and checked, because I thought this, but I went and checked. They're not getting yards after the catch at all. They're the worst in the league right now in terms of yards after the catch. And when you can't get the deep ball and you can't push it downfield because teams are guarding against it, then people underneath, when they catch the football, they got to make somebody miss every now and then and pick up additional yardage. Yeah. You got to make someone, okay, I caught it. Everyone better tackle him. And right now, it's almost like catch, get what you catch, down on the spot. Get what you catch, down on the spot. Since we're in postseason baseball now, this is station to station, as we used to call it in baseball. All right? I don't know how much you follow baseball, Carl. Bob and I follow probably a little bit more. Bob, this is like the go-go White Sox 1959, 1960, where they could, for them, a rally was a hit, a stolen base, a sacrifice fly, and a squeeze. I mean, that's how they scored runs. That was how they did it. And right now, New Orleans is fighting too hard to move the football. But I will say this, they ran the heck out of it against Buffalo last week. They ran it much better. And Kendre Miller, the backup runner,
there you go.
When he gets it, he hits it. And that was a revelation for them.
It's interesting because that was a problem the Giants had last year, not having explosive plays. So this year, against Dallas, they hit a bunch of explosive plays. The big question now is, because that's what Dable wants to do. We got to, because if you keep going on these 12-play, 79-yard drives, eventually something bad's going to happen. So the question is, Carl and Charles, how do you make up for the loss of Malik Nabers? You can't replace him, but you have to keep the explosive play part as part of your repertoire, or else you just morph back into last year's team.
No, go ahead. I'll let you go. Go ahead.
What I was saying is Darius Slayton is a guy that I'm crazy about. He's the guy that if this was college football, and we all know college football, you know who Darius Slayton is? He's a player you depend upon, you like. Hey, he's a great kid. Can we recruit a better player? That's what happens all the time behind closed doors. Darius Slayton's that guy. Everyone looks at him. They appreciate everything he does. We can get someone better, though, right? And then every time you need him, he shows up in a big way. I think he will step forward in the absence of Nabers and play well. I do think that Wandale is going to be able to run his routes, but there may be more, hey, can we press him a little bit deeper at times? And let's be honest about it. My Tennessee alum, Jalin Hyatt, I feel like I'm watching Gordon Gekko in Wall Street now when he called Bud Fox from standing by the water and the dawn is breaking and he gives him the big pep talk. He goes, hey, buddy boy, this is your wake-up call. This is Jalin Hyatt. This is your opportunity. This is your time, okay?
Yeah.
All that speed, all that potential. Can you manufacture some of these big plays that are needed? Because guess what? Your rookie quarterback, that was his stock and trade at Ole Miss. All right, you go back. You guys know the numbers. That ball was in the air, and it was pushed downfield, and this kid goes big game hunting. So if you give him half a chance to do it again, he will do it again come Sunday at the Superdome. But you need those guys to come along with him.
Gentlemen, for me, you talk about the explosive plays. The guy who lights the fuse in the first explosion is going to start with Cam Skatteboo. Cam Skatteboo is the guy who is going to open up the field because he's explosive, he's physical, and it's going to take an effort to get him on the ground, right? What he has put on tape is not a lot of defensive backs that are looking forward to seeing him one-on-one.
Because he is a smash-em-up derby in and of himself. I mean, every time he carries the football, it is just body scattering. And we always joke about guys making business decisions. Do you want to tackle this kid or not? You might want to in the first quarter. You may not want to by the time you've dealt with him by 4 quarters. Exactly. That's who this kid is. Exactly. Every single carry is a wreck.
And to follow up on Charles' point about Slayton, I remember last year Nabers didn't play in the game in Seattle, and Slayton had a $122 receiving in that win. So, Charles, what kind of adjustments? How do you think the Saints defend Jaxson Dart this week? Because there was a little of the theater of the unknown for the Chargers last week. Yeah, they could look at the preseason stuff, but now it's a regular season. Yeah. There's nothing on tape. The Saints now have some tape on Jaxson Dart. What adjustments does he have to make, and what do you think the Saints try to do to negate his strengths?
Yeah, and in most cases, as you guys know, if we're getting ready for Game 5, we're not going back to anything previous, right? We're not going back to college tape or anything like that. But this is only Jaxson Dart's second start. So you take the one game you have, and I'm pretty sure that they dove into some Ole Miss tape as well to see the things that he did well, knowing that Brian Daboll and Mike Kafka are going to have those types of plays ready for this kid, because that's what you do. You meet them halfway. You get them comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
I think that if you're the Saints, you're looking at this and thinking to yourself, space. This is what he operates well in. This is how Ole Miss maneuvered the football well. Could you end up going extra DBs on this one? Because we're seeing it more and more across the league, right? That people are playing nickel sets and base downs. So maybe you're playing more of that in order to try and combat what you're seeing. And you better have someone available to keep an eye on this young man, because he has no problem taking off and going. Okay, so when he decides to take off and run, do you have someone sitting there? And I don't know that it's necessarily aligning a spy with him, but I think it's much more zone, eyes back towards him, keep an eye on this kid. Because you get into some man-to-man, you'll be running with the receiver, and that kid will be running right up your back, and you never saw him coming.
And Charles, isn't that and Carl, isn't that a little bit then of the quandary for the defense of the Saints? If you do go extra DBs, well, now are those guys willing to tackle Cam Skattebo?
Right. That's the light box theory. Yeah. Yeah.
I mean,
you got to pick your poison. But what the Giants will run, it's not foreign to a defensive coordinator. It's RPO. It's just to pick the players that operate within the RPO. So the schematic, you can kind of get your guys ready for. You can kind of have your defensive ends ready to go. But as soon as you hit a run on the inside with Cam Skattebo, that end goes crashing down, and who knows what's going to happen on the edge. It's either going to be a pass or your quarterback's going to run it. So they'll know how to, in theory, defend the RPO, because it's not new in the league. It's old. It's just the components of the RPO that really puts the stress on the defensive coordinator, and they've got to choose, okay, how do we defend certain receivers, certain runners, and what resources do we want to commit to it, and hope that the Giants and their young quarterback is not quite ready to make the decisions or choose the right option off of the RPO if they take something away.
I'll make it simple from my standpoint. If I'm Brandon Staley, the defense coordinator of the Saints, and you tell me that I'm going to have Cam Skattebo carry it 25 times, but there's only 79 yards, I sign up for that first and foremost. That's fine, because that's a little bit over 3 yards to carry, right? I will take that, but here's the thing you have to do to win it, to finish it off. You've got to win third down on defense, because the Chargers did not.
Yeah.
The Giants able to go 7 of 15 on third down. So now 3 yards a carry, 4 times, 3-point-something yards per carry 3 times gets you first downs and keeps the ball. But if you win third down and you shut that part down and Skattebo doesn't break you, I want the ball in Jaxson Dart's hands if I'm the defensive coordinator. I want him to throw the football. I want to see how that works. I don't have Malik Nabers to worry about now. I want these other guys to try and beat me, because I think, Carl, you made the best point. If Skattebo scatters my defense, that's a long day. Then the playbook's open. They can do everything they want. But if I can contain Skattebo and I say, youngster, you come get me, I want to see Jaxson Dart do that. Not that he's not capable, but I'd choose that first as opposed to Skattebo just wrecking my defense.
Sure.
What's the strength of the Saints defense in your opinion, Charles? I know Granderson's second in sacks. Cam Jordan's been doing it at a high level. They got Kool-Aid and Alante Taylor at the corners. I think Demario Davis is like in some time machine, because it feels like he's been in the league for 40 years. I think it almost feels like he came into the league as Carl was like in his last few years in the league. What is the strength of this defense in your opinion?
I do think it's the front seven. I do think that the people up front, Brian Brzee at defensive tackle, Devon Godshaw, who does a really nice job against the run. When they're playing an effective inside, now you got Granderson, Cam Jordan, who's still getting it done. He got his sack against Josh Allen last week. That's 124 in his career. You mentioned Mario Davis. Pete Werner's an underrated linebacker who would have been a massive hero last week if he held on to the interception that was right in his arms against Buffalo. Might have changed the complexion of things for a while. The back end is where it's very interesting because Kool-Aid McKinstry has not played super well so far. They're expecting a little bit more out of him. Isaac Yadam, you guys remember him, who played in New York for a while.
I couldn't believe he's still in the league.
Right? He's starting at corner for them because they want to use Alontae Taylor as their nickel. And Alontae gets used all over the place. So he's the nickel. And then Justin Reed is the old head back there. And they have a young safety named Jonas Sanker, came out of Virginia. Jonas Sanker, who is playing really well for them right now. But he's had to fill in for Julian Blackman, who got hurt. This kid played really well last week, save a big missed tackle against Khalil Shakir in the open field that went for a touchdown. But the rest of the game, 3 passes broken up, interception, tackled pretty well. He's coming along for them, but I still think that front part of that defense is where it's concentrated. And similar to the Giants, they've got to win those early downs so that Granderson and Cam Jordan can have the effect on a defense that they want to. If you're not winning the early downs, those guys can't get done what you want done, which is put pressure on the quarterback.
Kellen Moore is familiar with the Giants. Kellen Moore has had a great deal of success against his current Giant regime. So that gives him some insight into how he wants to attack a Shane Bowen defense. I think the challenge for Shane Bowen now is to say, hey, look, we're up. We got better players now. And we understand you, and you don't have the same. You don't have Dak Prescott. You don't have CeeDee Lamb. You have your scheme. We have our scheme. Let's see whose players are going to execute it better. But I think knowing each other's strengths and weaknesses is an advantage. And the guy who's had the advantage over the years has been Kellen Moore. So he knows the cracks in Shane Bowen's defense. And I think he's going to start by trying to run the ball right away, because that's where he's always had success against the Giants. It's still where the Giants need to get better. And if you want to set the tone for your offense, you probably start it there.
Great point. And also remember, coming from Philadelphia, but Kellen Moore is also well aware enough that his Philadelphia roster is not his New Orleans roster. But he has people who, to your point, Carl, can be reasonable facsimiles of what he had. Look, you're not getting Saquon, but Alvin Kamara and the way Kentre Miller ran it last week, they're reasonable facsimiles. So you get under center with Spencer Rattler, you take the pressure off of his pass game, and you run the football. That's what you try and compensate and do, even though you know your offensive line is not Philly's. But then again, whose is, right? That Philadelphia offensive line is one of one. But you get those elements of things you know that work. Do I have guys who can kind of essay that? And can I go ahead and utilize some of that? So I think your point's well taken. That's where Kellen Moore is going to try and go. I mean, he is the quintessential coach's kid for real. Grew up watching tape on the kitchen refrigerator like we did way back in the day with those old projectors. Going to practice with dad. Drawing up your own playbook with your friends, playing ball with your dad in high school, going to college and being extremely successful, and now in the coaching ranks, one of the rising young stars. This is the story that we would watch a Disney movie, and it would be a true story, because that's who Kellen Moore is.
Yeah. I mean, listen, he's had – you mentioned Philadelphia, which was his recent stop, but, like, he has literally had, 8 years experience coaching against the Giants, because he was their guy in Dallas as well. So, I mean, he's got a pretty good book on the Giants.
He understands the NFC East. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Totally. He gets the NFC East between Dallas and Philadelphia. You know that division quite well, and you know the style of play that is required to survive in it.
Yeah.
Charles, I want to ask you about the start Brian Burns has gotten off to. Obviously, you watched the tape. I mean, we saw it all during training camp. I mean, the intensity that he practices with is off the charts, and he looks like a guy on a mission right now to prove to all the people that have maybe passed him up for Pro Bowl consideration. Like, don't forget about Spider-Man.
Oh, there's no question. And you nailed it, Bob, as far as I'm concerned. You guys get to see him day in and day out. I see him occasionally in the summertime when I get to visit camp, but I get all the reports, the out and out passion and abandon that he does everything with. And it starts with practice and it carries over to the game. And you're exactly right. You have to get the attention of your fellow players because they're the ones who essentially vote you into the Pro Bowl. And Carl knows it better than anyone. You have to find a way in the first time. Okay? I remember reading a book way back when, Fran Tarkenton. Okay? It was his book. It was his first autobiography. It was called They Call Me Scrambler. And his center was Mick Tingelhoff. Remember him with the Vikings?
Mm-hmm.
And Mick Tingelhoff went to the Pro Bowl for the first time. And Fran Tarkenton said in the book, I told Mick, congratulations, you're going to go for the next 10 years. Because once you get in, your name recognition carries you from there. What's the old expression, Carl? You usually go to your first Pro Bowl a year after you should have gone the first time. But you go to your last Pro Bowl a year longer than you should have gone. So that's what you have to get going.
That is so true.
He just needs that in. And Bob, you nailed it. He is playing with that abandon. Although what's funny about the Pro Bowl sometimes is you miss on the Pro Bowl, but you make it up in All Pro. Demario Davis.
That's where the money is anyway. That's where the money is. The contracts talking about All Pro. They don't worry about Pro Bowl. Yeah.
he's been All Pro like 5 times, but only like 1 or 2 Pro Bowls.
Well, Charles, I'll give you a perfect example. Right, there was a little bit of a bias because of Lawrence Taylor and Harry Carson and the media. So Carl didn't get the recognition he deserved as far as Pro Bowls consistently, but he was voted to the Pro Football Hall of Fame All-Decade Team of the 80s. That's a perfect example right there. Like, wow, you're on the All-Decade team.
It's a great example. I actually talked with a voter one time, and he said something to me years ago that has made such perfect sense. That when you have these really great teams and you recognize like all 4 of your linebackers should have been, going to Pro Bowls and All Pro and the whole deal. Mm-hmm. But if you're a voter, if you vote for all of them, you don't seem as smart. And so some people get passed over. Like in your case, you don't get the vote you should get because Lawrence and Harry are going. And then whammo, if I vote for all of them, I look like I'm just voting for one group or I'm a homer. And people quit and they don't do it the right way. It's kind of like Hall of Fame. When those dynasty teams go in, have you noticed a certain number go in and then it pauses for a while? Because people go, well, we can't vote every one of them, even though they deserve to go.
Yeah.
And Jerry Kramer from the Green Bay Packers didn't get in until a couple of years ago. Jerry Kramer, speaking of all-decade teams, he's an all-decade guard. Just got in because they had so many other guys who went in before. People just didn't want to vote for him. And it was nuts. But that's just one example.
Mm-hmm.
Charles, as you've looked at the tape, according to the Next Gen stats, Abdul Carter leads all rookie players in quarterback pressures. What have you liked that you've seen, and what are areas of growth, in your opinion, that are needed for him to take it to another level?
Well, he's still learning the edge stuff. I think we all, sometimes you guys don't because you're there, but the outside world forgets. He played 1 year of edge at Penn State. He's been an off-the-ball linebacker. So his arsenal is still coming together about what to do. Plus, here in the early going, due to injuries and other things, the Giants have had to use him in multiple spots. So, yes, can he handle those spots? Sure. But getting him comfortable, getting him honed to a fine edge, typically you want to get a guy in one spot and turn him loose. Right now, he's having to be the jack of all trades. The second thing is, he's getting close with the pressures. I hope he's not getting discouraged that the sack numbers aren't there yet because the flurry will come. It happens a lot, especially with early kids. And here's the last part. He's a Penn State edge rusher that actually brought numbers with him to the NFL. Odafe Owe went in the first round out of Penn. Remember when he was Jason Owe? He's a first rounder to Baltimore. You know how many sacks he had his senior year at Penn State? He had 0. Okay,
Wow.
Chop Robinson, first rounder, goes to Miami, playing well for him, right? 4.5 sacks his last year at Penn State. The numbers didn't correlate at all with the talent. Abdul Carter, the numbers correlated big time. So we saw all of that. So it's kind of weird that now it's a reverse. The pressure's there. He's not getting the numbers. Just don't get discouraged. Keep doing it. It'll come in time. And it's going, and all of a sudden he'll look up and go, oh my God, the last 5 games I've gotten 4 or 5 sacks. It's just going to happen for him. As long as he's bringing that pressure.
Charles, I agree 100%. And the thing about the pressures, and the thing that doesn't get pass rushers upset is because those pressures, if they're touching the quarterback and the quarterback's getting off the ground after every one of those pressures, they just know it's a matter of time. Yep. It's not that you beat your guy and you're 2 steps too slow. He beats his guy and the quarterback's on the ground. Ball just happened to get out. So I think he'll look at that and he'll be like, oh, this is going to come because I'm right here. I'm touching the quarterback every time I beat my guy.
Yeah, no question about it. And I'll just finish it with this. The quarterbacks you played against in college, as a general rule, you're not playing against them ever again.
That's right.
Okay? Because the better ones are going to the guys that you're putting on the deck a lot in college, they're not generally you're going to see them again. So now you get to the NFL. They're quicker with their reads. They're more decisive in their decision-making. The ball's out quicker, as you talked about. So you have to play for that a little bit. And I'm really eager to continue to watch him rush from inside. 1 step, 2 steps closer, and 1 quick move.
Sure.
Boom. He's right in their face now. These numbers will come over time. It's just got to be tough for him in the beginning because in college, the way he's rushing the passer now, he would already have 6, 7 sacks.
Yeah, that's true.
He'd be loaded.
That's true.
That's a good point. Well, the Giants better cover Juwan Johnson. Here's my little nugget for the day.
Yeah.
Juwan Johnson's played in 3 games against the Giants. He's got a touchdown catch in every game against the Giants. Every game against the Giants. So Juwan Johnson, keep your eye on him.
Penn State and Oregon's finest.
Charles,
I wonder who he rooted for last week.
Oh yeah, that's a good point. Well, he was before all the money, so probably who knows? Maybe he actually had a rooting interest as opposed to a booster interest.
Yeah, right.
Or the collective.
Nowadays, money just comes right to you. It's on the table, down below it.
That's so
Charles,
true.
we appreciate a couple minutes. We look forward to seeing you down in New Orleans for the Giants and Saints, and watch the broadcast on CBS. We'll be doing it on the radio, but we'll look forward to catching up before the game, my friend.
Can't wait to see you guys. Appreciate it.
Charles.
Always fun talking with you. You take care.
Thanks, man.